Whew, it finally happened. I got the editor problem, so I have now 2 hours, a bit over 2 hours of footage from saving that I'm editing. I just can't get done with it, so I'm like right now going to make a shorter video straight with the text and no video, all the audio, because I have to figure out what I want to show from that sailing. Really good stuff. Like, I had a really good time sailing and moving the boat, and my dad was being a dad, so asking like why doesn't he have whiskey in his glass and so on. So a lot of people we're gonna stop by the harbor and content crop for May, so I'm gonna have to push some other videos probably forward and push this for back, like push this in the feed. So this is gonna make the continuation break really hard, because we are now almost at summer. It's like May 9th, and so yeah. And if I had known the weather gets this good, I might have gone sailing today, but I didn't, so I didn't go. Now I'm here. It's 7 p.m. So now it's almost looks like a 4 p.m. or 2 p.m. in winter. You're gonna start seeing that during the next videos when we get to winter again. Yeah, but on to today's topic. So we decided on the topic for May for Content Cup in CNCF's back again. So Bryan Ross still being one of the big ones. I wanna also shout out Abby for sharing videos, and a lot of others who are making the great content. I'll put a link to them, hopefully, to the LinkedIn post that comes with this. And oh yeah, it's Sakura season, by the way. But the May's Content Club topic is what happens to platformers when they become mature. Like, most of the organizations are at the moment tackling the early stage. So like, we're seeing building of the catalog of APIs, everybody getting really happy and starting the build phase. Like, what happens when we got them ready? Like, what happens when they become mature? What does that look like? Where does it go? Let's go see the sakura trees. It's forbidden to walk around, but we're gonna go see the sakuras because I really want to see them. So the content is really about platform engineering. So the first thing is that, like, if you have an internal developer platform and a platform engineering team, it's gonna be over 10 people very quickly in any big organization, and it's gonna be a cost from management point of view, because they won't remember the pain before. So the innovation has to continue, and we have to think about the ways how do we make it visible, and that needs to be incorporated into the plan from the beginning, because we know support usually doesn't get that much funding. So when you're starting the work, you have to start figuring out where do you move these things, how do we actually take them into production, like who's gonna offer the support, who's gonna maintain them, how are we gonna manage them, if we use a partner, who do we use, and what are they doing. So yeah, I work as a CTO at the moment for managed services department, so I do constantly like discussions, and many organizations are not yet ready to move their backstage responsibility, for example, to us, because they are still developing it heavily. But it's something that like they need to start thinking. Like, what happens when we scale this up? Like, when we get them catalog of APIs into use, what's the next step? Like, how do we make sure that we still have resources to use? Because then we need to keep updating, managing, maintaining, and we have users. At the same time, we have to invest on development. So now you're in a state where pooling resources in two ways, it's gonna get really difficult very quickly, based on historical deployments. On the other side, then again, that's the business side. So securing your business, making things more business oriented. But on the other side, the problem is also that, as we've seen in any project, the more we template or the more we do these, the more innovation comes and the things start going old. So your average DevOps pipeline life cycle is about 5 years. So if you start now setting up GitHub, for example, it's gonna be around about 5 years, and then you need to reinvest. That's the truth. Like, that's how I've seen it in most companies. And you can skip about 1 generation, but then you need to start investing, and that's 10-year cycle maximum. And you're gonna start feeling the pain at around 8 years mark if you don't. The first pain is gonna be visible at the 5. But the same is gonna be starting to be visible in our platform engineering initiatives. So if you build your templates and you don't make them easy to upgrade, easy to change, and long lasting, you're gonna end up in the next change not be able to react to it. So I can see it, for example, at the moment Terraform is going down and people are trying to get it down more. It's not really that much down because it's still a fantastic state machine, but like, it's getting a lot of competition, and that means that like there's a lot of people trying to invent how would they do it better. So we're gonna start seeing that same thing for Kubernetes. We're gonna start seeing that same thing for many other technologies. Like, virtualization was at one point the slice of bread, and you have to be ready for those things. Otherwise, the investments don't come, because it's new ways of working that the companies want to invest. They want to get back the money that they invested, and if you ask it for the same thing, it's not gonna happen. So you really need to invest on the development process. And it starts in so many different places, like finding the business case, figuring out the current issues, and solving those. So to go back to the customer first mentality. So we go to, in platform engineering, when you start off, you start by solving customers' problems, and then we get to the mature phase, so to say, and we try to invent and we try to push the envelope. But the thing is, if you drive it that way, your platform engineering team drives the innovation, when you already have it in place, in mature, most likely you are not the expert in the business. If you are, fantastic, but most likely where you need to get the feedback is from the developers that are working on the business problems. So you need to make sure these people are telling you what your backlog is. If they're not, the funding is in danger, and you need to keep the business owners happy. And that's going to be really challenging because we are a function of support. Yes, we make a lot of sense, we optimize, we improve, we make things way more effective, we make innovation possible. But same is the finance. If you don't have finance team, you're gonna be really screwed on many aspects. But you can't. We're not making money, and that's difficult. So if you're not making money, you need to start investing more in the fact that you are supporting the business who is funding you. And that's the funding side of things. Okay, so let's go to the technical side of things. So when you get mature, it means your resources get cut. So the more mature you are, less people they expect you to need, because less changes they are expecting. At the same time, your technical debt is going to grow. Your SLA requirements are going to be ridiculous because people don't want it to be down ever. And the security holes we don't even know about are going to start popping off. And we're gonna also end up developing stuff against risk options. So if you started your platform engineering before AI, well, now you're gonna need to figure out how that fits there. Where does it go? And how does it flow? So it's a really difficult thing. Because like the innovation will keep going, but the management team doesn't wanna reinvent the wheel constantly. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that in the technical side, the solutions that are critical are solid and easy to implement. So one thing that we've been doing is that we know catalog APIs should come from the YAML file in the repos. But getting that in the enterprise model is really hard. So maybe pulling it from the enterprise service bus or an API gateway is way easier in many of your organization parts. Because it's there, the data exists, and you probably have access to it already. Doing it in any other system is really hard because it requires humans, that requires support, and then you need to write guidelines, and the guidelines are not going to be up to date constantly, or you need to make an AI tools, that's hard. And that's every time the difficulty of running a service, that people expect it to work. So we're gonna take the scenery road for less people, hopefully. So then, how do we measure when are we mature? You're gonna see many opinions, and like you are gonna have a different opinion on maturity and the management. And if you don't get the adoption up, it's always hard, of course, then you're basically dead on the water. But if you get the adoption up, then it's often the question of what does it mean? Where are we? What are we expecting to hit? So I would say when you go over 20% of the users, it becomes hard to say that you are not mature. You don't need to do disaster recovery backups, maintaining the software, announcing any updates, all the other stuff that relates to change management and need those side of things, which I'm probably gonna talk in a separate video. But you know, it's all of it is just such an experience. So here's the dog park. That was the ice swimming place. You have to join the club. I don't know if they even take people at the moment. But yeah, and becoming mature requires a lot of things that, like, as a developer you might not have done. So if you're a developer background, if you haven't taken a product to production that has users and is in supportive function, a lot of the things are going to be hard to understand, that they are going to complain if you deploy during the day if anything breaks. As long as nothing breaks, everything is fine. But for example, changing UI, it might be your business area leader that comes and shouts at you because some VP got mad. And that's just life in supportive functions. If you're not making the money. If you're making the money, you're not in platform engineering most likely, or if you're in platform engineering, that's interesting. Tell me about it. If your product is the platform engineering product. But yeah, that makes it really difficult to maintain the same kind of like developer first approach as a developer. Because you need to start taking into account all these operational processes that we need to make it stable. But it's not really fun. And it's very different style of developing software. So it's always this balancing act. And if you do Kubernetes clusters, like let's say Kubernetes, and you need to update the Kubernetes, you need to like constantly keep everybody involved on what is going to change so that people have the trust. It requires one time that you fail to update and trust is gone. So it's a really hard place to be, and I really recommend that you think about it already. Like, how are we gonna make sure that the operational really stays up and running? Don't implement everything. You don't need it until you have users. But you can still start thinking about what are we doing, who's doing, who are we. It's such a fantastic evening. I was worried I couldn't make the video. Yeah, so then let's say that you have message queues in management. Yeah, so really cool to be here during the early summer when the birds are nesting still. But yeah, so welcome to life of managed services. So our job is kind of take care of that to many customers. The implementation project is usually the easy part, in the sense that like it's done. It's like there's a product in the market and people know about it, but it's still not very easy, and it might be still too far away for most of us. But hey, here we are talking about multitude of angles. So like, what do we want to get out of it? And some mature platforms might keep working like they've now worked, and you don't have to think about these things. So the cool thing about things is not every company follows the same structures, and there are companies that don't ever get these structures. But there are also like high recreation companies that require all of these structures, and then it gets really difficult. Like managing it is a nightmare, to be honest. But it's also very fun because you have constraints that force you to think about the box. But yeah, I think that's me about mature contents, mature platforms. I might be missing a lot. Like I'm missing the how do we intend to keep funding these things. But for that we have CNCF for the toolings development. And on the other side, if we can make it mission critical and make it visible on how people keep getting faster after also. So helping them on the operation side, for example, optimizing analytics, giving people visibility on where do they slow down. These things can enable you to keep getting that funding. And that's the beauty of these things. You don't have to become a mature platform with lower budget. You can actually get more with the correct reactions. So that's Swans. So many of them. Wow. So I want to thank you all for joining on this evening walk, and hopefully this woke some thinking on your head. And I'm gonna get back to editing my sailing videos. I'll try to get them out before mid-June. So hopefully we'll get some really cool content to you. And remember to like and subscribe. So beautiful. Thank you all. See you next video.